Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Kwasi from Kwasi Studios, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to show you guys a step-by-step guide on how I actually make some of my poster designs. So this will be a voice tutorial where I'll show you guys what goes on in my head and how I actually come up with my designs. So today I'm planning to make a movie poster of one of my favorite movies growing up called Spirited Away. So Spirited Away is an anime movie produced by Studio Ghibli and written by Hayao Miyazaki. Now, this isn't going to be a video on a review of the movie, but at the same time, I do highly recommend you guys go check it out if you're actually into the anime scene. Now, I haven't always been doing poster design specifically, but obviously as I increase my career as a graphic designer, it's something that I kind of stumbled across. So one style that I've been falling in love with that I've been doing a lot is the Brutalism style.
Coming in, coming out, my wallet me tell me now. No tsunami leather, you can't see me, but you hear me loud.
Brutalism takes a more bold, raw, in-your-face approach to design. So typically what you're going to see is people using big shapes like squares and boxes and depend heavily on grids just to kind of style and kind of organize the design in itself. A lot of times also you might see typography or typography, however you guys want to say it, being heavily emphasized so the readers can have something to look at. Usually when you look at this kind of design style, your eyes kind of wander in different places of the design just to kind of figure out what their focal point is. So that's what I'm going to focus more on and show you guys how to put that all together in your basis of design. And last thing, this is more of the intermediate tutorial, so it'll be best if you already know a little bit about Photoshop, but if you don't, it's fine. You can still follow my directions, but again, it's going to be a little bit advanced and a lot of shortcuts and a lot of things we got to do. So keep that in mind before we start the tutorial. Anyways, let's jump into it. Okay, now we're in Photoshop. So the first thing I want to do, I want to open a new file. So we're going to hit new. And this is pretty important. I'm going to go 11 by 17 in inches. So usually Photoshop is going to have you in pixels. Make sure you're in inches because I want it to be a poster that I can print out. And usually I do my posters 11 by 17. That way I can edit it, make it smaller if I need to. But 11 by 17 is usually the typical height and height and width you want to do with posters. Also make sure the resolution's on 300. I think usually it's on like 20 or 30, but the higher resolution, the more clear your picture's gonna be if you do decide to print it. I just find that 300 is probably the best one to do. So I do pixels per inch. So we can just do that and we're gonna hit create. All right, so on my Photoshop, I already have my rulers on my canvas before I start. But for you guys, what you can do is hit Control R, or if you're on a MacBook, Command R. That should bring up the rulers onto your canvas. And what you can do is just start dragging them onto the canvas. I kind of want to put it in the middle. I think Photoshop kind of tells you where the middle is, but I can kind of eyeball. You want to start to put things in the middle, at least one ruler in the middle, and this is how you make your boxes and your guidelines. So this is pretty important because you want to have an idea of how you want to organize your piece or your canvas, because that's the whole point of the Brutalism. You want to make sure that boxes are in a way that makes sense to the audience. So obviously just because I have a box doesn't mean I can fill this entire box with a shape or something. I can do half of text, half with a picture. But the key is I want to keep everything inside the box. So a couple tips when it comes to doing your grids. You want to make sure you leave a little bit of bleed. So what I mean by this is I'll probably put 2 lines right here and 1 right here, right? That way all my images are inside this box or this square, and I have a little bit of space outside of it. This kind of keeps everything organized and doesn't keep everything extending from the piece. I personally, when I make posters, I like to have a bleed, which means that they'll just extend whatever's on the outside so there's no white spaces. And preferably, you don't want your pictures to extend. You kind of want to keep all your pictures contained inside a box. So I'll also put some up here too. So I'll put one here. And I already have one down there. So this is what I'll usually go for. I'm not going to use this for this design. I just want to show you guys how I want to do it. But like I said, you want to use Instagram to kind of give you an idea of what you want your layout to look like. So what I'm going to do off screen is I'm going to make my layout, but I do implore you guys not to follow my tutorials from start to finish. You kind of want to get inspiration and make your own grid style. But I'm going to cut the video and show you guys what I come up with after I, go back and forth and look at other inspiration. Okay, so I'm back to our canvas. So I made exactly what I wanted to do. So everything will make sense once I start filling things in. But so the first thing I want to do now is I want to start to put in my guidelines or my shapes. to kind of tell me exactly how I want my pictures. So the first thing I'm gonna do here is I'm going to fill this in. So I already made a new layer. To make a new layer, you press the plus sign at the bottom, and I'm gonna take my paint bucket tool if I can find it. Here we go. And I'm gonna fill it in like this. So I know immediately that I want to put an image here, so I'm gonna put in my paint bucket tool. So I also know that I actually want to put my text here, so I'm gonna leave this blank. It's gonna make sense as we put things together, but essentially you want to decide which areas have your text and which areas are going to have your pictures. So I'm going to probably speed up the video. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying here, but it's gonna make more sense. I'm going to speed up the video, or I might just cut to when I'm done, but kind of show you guys exactly what I want, and I'll explain more when I'm done. Okay, so I'm basically done with how I want it. So a couple of things I want to explain what I did. So every single time I make a new box or a new image placeholder, I create a new layer. So every time you want to put in the select tool and put in the paint bucket tool, make sure you make a new layer, because if you do it all in one layer, it's not going to make sense. And I'll show you guys why when we get into clipping masks. So now I have what I want, and I just wanted to cut into the process because it's something I noticed. I don't ever like my pictures overlapping. You see how there's no space between this line and these lines? So what I'll probably do now is I'll probably zoom in. I'm going to go to my move tool. I'm going to show transformations, and depending on what Photoshop version you have, hold shift, and this will let you move this a little bit. So I want to move it about here, so there's a gap between the two. And I also want to make sure the gaps kind of align. So this seems good enough for me. And this is important because if you don't do this, it's going to seem like both the pictures are going to overlap each other. And that doesn't really give a professional look. You kind of want spaces in between the pictures to kind of give it that brutalism style, to make not everything symmetrical. So now that I have this, I'm going to hit the check mark to make it official. I'm going to zoom back out, and this is kind of what I'm looking to do. So obviously with this design style, things are going to change, but now the key you want to do is you want to fill in this blank space with usually with text or something. So I'm thinking about putting text here. So I'll probably do here, I'll write Spirited Away with some Japanese text. I'll probably put Hayao Miyazaki right here because he's the director of the movie. And I'll probably put a text box with Japanese text here, or do some type of typography. And I'll probably put some shapes here to kind of fill in the space. So the key now is I want to fill in the space of the canvas that I want people to put their eyes to. So that will probably be for later, but for now, let's focus on what images we want to put here. Okay, so I'm back on Google. So what I Googled was Spirit Away screen caps. You could just Google Spirit Away or whatever you guys are using, just Google it. And remember, I told you go to Tools, Advanced Search, and make them bigger. So if you go back to my canvas, I have 1, 2, 3 pictures I need. So I'm going to look through everything and get 3 images that look great to me or make the most sense. So obviously what I want to do is use I believe this is probably I think this is like the front cover of the original movie poster. So I definitely want to incorporate that in my design. So what I usually do, I just hit copy, go back to Photoshop. This should work on my first try. I should go to new, and it goes to clipboard. So Photoshop has this cool feature that whatever you copy on the web, it'll create a clipboard that's the exact size you need. So I'll hit create, and hopefully if this works correctly, I should hit paste, and it pastes it the exact same color I want, or the exact same shape I want. So what I like to do for my Brutalism designs is I like to do a black and white kind of design and then think about the colors later. So if I want to do that for this picture, I'm going to go to my effect tab down here below. I'm going to hit black and white, which will make the entire thing black and white for me. Next, I'm going to hit threshold because I like that little grunge or that little grainy texture look. I'm going to play with this slider because I want it to make sense. So it doesn't have to be the exact same settings as me, but I think something like this makes sense. And then I'm just going to put my opacity down because I just don't want it to look too grainy. And about here looks good to me. So when it comes to your effects, obviously you don't want to keep them stock. Like I like to either play with the layer style or the opacity. For this case, just for the threshold, I'm going to just play with the opacity. Next, I'm going to go to my brightness and contrast. Kind of want to make the darks darker, and it looks okay with me with the darkness and lightness, but I'm going to put the darkness or the brightness down by like -6. And then next is probably my favorite effect on Photoshop, and that's the exposure. If I can find it, exposure, here we go. And I'm gonna put the offset up a little bit to give it that little chalky look, to give it more of like a movie finish. So I'm gonna go around here, and what the gamma correction is gonna do is make it, you know, the black's a little bit darker, and the exposure will make it a little bit brighter for me. So this is kind of what I'm gonna go for all my pictures. So you can kind of copy these settings. So you want to do your black and white, your threshold, your brightness and contrast, and your exposure. And the last thing, which is pretty important, and you're gonna have to learn how to do this because I'm gonna do this a lot in this tutorial. We're gonna make a new layer. We're gonna go to image. We're going to apply the image. What this is gonna do is gonna take all of these layers and make it into one stock image. So even if I hide all these layers, this one is still on top of it. The issue with apply image is you kind of want to do this at the end, because if you want to change anything, what you're gonna have to do is delete the apply layer. What I'm gonna do is hide it. And now when I hide the other effects, it's back to normal. But if I show the apply image, it's exactly what I did earlier. So the apply image is more of a snapshot of the picture, but you only want to do this on the final or your final product. The reason I want to do this apply image is I want to make it a little more quality. I'm going to sharpen. I'm going to go to filter. I'm going to go to sharpen. I'm going to go to smart sharpen, or you can just hit the sharpen button. I do smart sharpen because I want to control how much gets sharpened. So cool thing about this is I can actually see it live. So I want to go for about 67% or 70%. You can do whatever works for you. You don't want it too sharp, because if I go like here, it's hard to see, but it kind of makes it look kind of bad. I'm not a fan of too much sharpening. So about 70% works for me to keep the image, you know, good quality while also not making it too sharp. So this is what I'm going to go for. And what I'll usually do is I'll copy this entire image. So I'm going to select the entire image. I'm gonna hit copy, go to our canvas, and I'm going to look for where I want to put it. So I want to put it in this main rectangle here. So I'm going to click on that layer. I'm going to paste it. Now the issue here now is that, I don't want to move that. The issue now is that we want to make it inside our boxes. Remember the squares we put? So what you can do now is you can go to the layer, right click, and go to create clipping mask. And what the clipping mask will do, it will put the image inside that box. Now remember, we wanted to get the biggest image we could, because clearly I'm gonna have to make this image bigger. Because it's big enough I need to make it, if I stretch it out, I won't lose too much quality. So I want to make this a little bit bigger, and I want to put it here. Kind of use my rule of thirds scale, where I don't want to put the image directly in the middle. I kind of want to give a little bit of background space for it to make sense, to give it a flow. So I think I want to put her, or the main character of the movie, on this left hand box, while keeping the background on the right hand side, because it kind of gives the image more symmetry. And again, I want to have the reader's eyes go in different places. It's going to make sense the more pictures I put in, but I like where this sits, so I'm going to keep it here. This is perfect for me. So next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the exact same effects for two other pictures I'm going to find online. So I'm going to just skip ahead. I'm going to get the two other images, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so I'm back. I found two other images I like that might make a lot of sense when I put them in. So it's this one with the main character. I'm forgetting her name. I'm sorry, guys. I probably should have watched the movie before I did this video, but I got her in this scene where she's walking across the ocean. And this is probably an iconic scene where she's sitting on the bus with some of the spirits. So again, I'm going to do the exact same effect I did for this one to kind of keep the idea the same. This kind of grainy, black and white movie-esque scene. So I don't want to show the same thing twice or three times, but I'm going to quickly remind you guys what we did. Again, we're going to go to black and white, make it black and white. We're going to go to thresholds, and we're going to play with the thresholds till we get something that we like. I kind of like this. I'm going to put the opacity down to where it makes sense. I think like 20 makes sense here. I'm going to go to black and white, or I'm going to go to brightness and contrast, increase the contrast. I think it's too dark for this one, so I'm going to increase the brightness. I'm going to put the brightness at 5. And then I'm going to go to exposure and bring up the offsets. and a little bit. See, this image is brighter, so you don't always want to use the exact same settings. This is why you don't want to copy my settings. Depending on the image you use, you might need to do different settings. So for this one, obviously I don't want to play too much with the offset because it's too bright. I kind of want to keep it as dark as possible. So I'm going to go to the gamma correction. This is where I'll play with. Gamma correction makes this a little bit darker, which also can let me bring up my offset. I'm going to bring my exposure up just a little bit so it makes sense. So again, same thing. I'm going to create a new image and I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to apply the image. Okay. And remember, I'm going to go to filter. I'm going to go to sharpen. I'm going to go to smart sharpen. And luckily it saves your settings. So on my last one, I was at 72. I think for this one, 72 makes sense. I can go up just a little bit. I'm going to go to 83. Okay. Now I'm going to, if you guys know a faster way to copy images, feel free to do that. I just do it the old fashioned way. My select tool, hit copy. You can hit Control C on your keyboard. I just do it old fashioned way. And where do I want to put this? Now, if you look at this, she's standing on the right side of this image. And because this section's on the left side, I don't mind putting it here on the right side. Now, this is just a thing for mine. This kind of gives you contrast of what's going on. Create your clipping mask. And we can put her right here. Now I might make it bigger, kind of see what I want to do. I think this makes sense, big like this. So I'll keep it like that. So kind of always keep in mind of the orientation of what you got going on, because again, you want to have the audience kind of scan the image and get their attention in different places. Had I made her stand on the right side here and the right side here, it's kind of uniform. You kind of want to draw the attention in different places. So shapes, sizes, and orientation kind of matter. So that's where I'll put this one. I'll just leave it here and I'll edit this one real quick and then I'll show you guys what I do when I paste it back into our canvas. Okay, I'm back with the image. So I did the exact same thing I did for the other one. Black and white, threshold, put on the opacity, brightness and contrast, exposure. And then I applied the image and sharpened it. So it's the exact same thing I did for the other two images. And I just did it for here. I just didn't want to do it 3 times. I'm going to hit copy. I hit cut by accident. So I do that. We're going to hit copy or Control C or Command C on your MacBook or your Windows, depending on what you're using. I'm using Windows, so it'll be Control C. Go back to our image and we want to place it on the last one we haven't done, which is this one. You can tell. It's also good to organize your canvas or your layers. I don't usually do that because I don't usually give out my PSDs. If I do, I organize them, but in case you want to, I'll show you guys how to do it in a second. We're going to hit paste and we're going to create another clipping mask and play with what we got. So I wanted to kind of be in the middle this time. So if I take my line here, you can see the beast or the monster smack in the middle. It's kind of what I want because see, this is on the left side, this is on the right side, this is in the middle. So clearly when you scan this image, you're going to kind of move your eyes in different places. And actually, I think this is a bit too blurry. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to, I'm going to undo the sharpen and I'm going to sharpen it more. I'm going to hit the sharpen button. Again, smart sharpen just lets you control how much it sharpens by. I went for like 72%. I think when you press sharpen, it goes for full on 100%. So I'm going to just hit that, just to give it more of a crisp look like this. And then I'm going to go back, copy. I'm going to actually delete this because it just looks blurry to me. That's all. That's the only reason I'm doing it. So everybody knows what I'm doing. Then create clipping mask. And I'm gonna put it here. I want to make sure it's in the middle. The square, that's not really the middle, so like right here. Cool. I actually don't like how much there's too much space on the right side, so I wanted it to be even. I think this works for me. There we have it. I have my 3 images that I want in this picture. Everything else is now I'm going to focus on typography or typography, however you want to say it. So again, the key to Brutalism is get your images in place, get your foundation in place, and then we'll worry about the effects later. So I have my main image here where I want the main focus. Obviously, I want the viewers to kind of look at the left side. Here, I want the viewers to look on the right side. And here I want the viewers to look straight down the middle. So I have my, So now I have my orientation. I'm gonna add everything else, including my text and some other effects that I usually do for designs like this. So let's do that. Okay guys, this is Kwasi from the future. So I did not know how long this video is gonna be. I think I have like 2 hours worth of a tutorial. So what I'm probably gonna do is split this video up into parts. Don't know how many parts I'm gonna do, probably 3 parts, but for now, this is gonna be the end of this video. So if you guys did enjoy, just make sure you leave a like. If you have any questions so far, what I've done, just leave a comment down below and I'll make sure I can answer them. Or if I need to make a separate video on specific skills, I can do that. Anyways guys, like I said before, it's Kwasi from Kwasi Studios. I'll catch you guys in the next video.